Hi, and welcome to another episode of Life in Recovery with Recovery Red. I'm Recovery Red, your host, and today I'm exploring a crucial aspect of life in recovery, the journey of dealing with grudges and resentments. Now, I first think of life before recovery, and grudges and resentments were like heavy anchors. They were just weighing me down. Um, they fueled my addiction as it progressed, as it went on. I've relapsed in the past. It provided a misguided sense of relief. The drug did, and it was relief from pain of basically unresolved emotions. What it came to was a wake up call. Um, it was a realization that even though I was physically free from substances, or once I got free from substances, I was still chained or connected to those emotions of all that resentment, all the grudges, and not just the ones I had, but even the ones that I caused because of being in my addiction. And true recovery means facing those demons head on. Um, Not all at once. You have to keep in mind, don't give yourself too much to deal with at one time. That can be detrimental. That can be a trigger. For me, both of those apply. I try to make sure I take it in stride. And I'm still dealing with some of these things. I say that to say I'm not here saying I've done all mine. I've dealt with all my grudges, all resentments from my side or other sides. I uh, I I am talking about this topic because I think it's huge. It's a huge part of recovery. Um, and unfortunately, I think it's still also a huge part of your addiction. Uh, and I know I still have a lot ahead of me, but it's all part of the process. Recovery doesn't come without it. I had a guy named Charlie at the rehab I went to recently, or the last rehab I went to, and he said, when I picked out who my sponsor was, I picked him out mainly because I saw peace in his eyes. He said, I have that peace now. And what I can tell you from that is I want that peace. And the only way I'm going to get that is if I deal with grudges and resentments. Um, it's scary. I'm not here to say, oh, it's just a walk in the park. No, it's probably a couple of Ironman triathlons and maybe a couple more after that. Like it all depends on, everybody's path is different. But one thing I can tell you is everybody's path has them one way, shape, or another. Um, Vulnerability, people see it as something that is a fault or a weakness. You have to realize vulnerability has strength. Um, when it comes to therapy or support groups, that allows you to connect to others who understood my struggles and understand your struggles, and they give that invaluable support, right? I mean, it's once you open up to these people, they give you so much feedback. And something I've learned, even if I think I have it all figured out and I know my path, that vulnerability that opens you up to that feedback, it lets you sometimes see things that you don't see, right? I mean, I know I'm not perfect, and as much as I may have thought in my life, oh, I know it all, I got it. No, well, there's something else I would learn, and with vulnerability, you get that, or at least you're open to receiving it. And you got to keep that in mind. Part of the healing process, some good things to do is have mindfulness. Self-compassion is a huge part of it. Daily reflection, daily inventory, but staying present in the moment. You got to remember that recovery is a journey, and it's not going to happen overnight. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of people go back to their addiction because they didn't want to continue on the path because it was hard. It's rough, and I'm guilty of that myself. I relapsed because I thought, what does it matter? What gives? If I'm just going to be treated like scum on the bottom of the shoe anyway, why am I going to get better? Well, now I'm sitting here to tell you I'm getting better because I want better. And I'm not getting better for everybody else. As much as I value people and what they have to offer or what they think, their feedback, I'm not in recovery to please them. And something I'm learning still is that there's a fine line between the confidence in that and the cockiness, because something that it's you have that fine line, like you don't want to go about it like, oh well, I'm in recovery and I'm doing all this, so you should just be proud or just be happy I'm not doing the things I used to do. You're going to cause more resentment, more grudges, I promise you. And this process, I can't tell you how long it's going to take. I'm still in the midst of it. I'm probably even towards the beginning of it. I'm not even halfway through it, really. I have an ex-wife, and the best thing I can do is give you examples from my life, and however you perceive it, hopefully it helps. I was really good with computer stuff, and I did some sideways things back in the day. And the resentments and grudges held from that with my ex-wife are still very, very strong. A new job that I started not too long ago has a life insurance policy, and it required the person that I want to leave my life insurance to, if something were to happen to me, it required a social security number for that person. And I wanted to make my daughter that person. So naturally, I automatically, knowing that this was going to be an issue, but thought there was a way to figure the issue out, I took a picture of the form. I openly said, however you want to handle it, I want to figure it out. If that means you want to call up to the work and give the head of the HR department the information, I'm all for it. That's as long as the money goes to Peyton. So if I want her to take and put her social and her name, or our daughter's name and her social, however it works. Ultimately, it ended with me having to put a whole completely different person. I ended up putting my mother, somebody that I know would take care of it, but I didn't want it to have to channel through that if I didn't need be. And my original thought process is you want to have a backup. Well, I only have that one person on mine. So God forbid anything happens to my mother, it leaves it. It's it stops there. Unfortunately, I don't have a current relationship with my sister. I can't sit here and tell you exactly what that's about, other than my addiction. And that's a relationship that I'm going to continue to try to fix as well. And I don't want to say fix, deal with grudges and resentments, and hear her side of things. But with back to the main story with my ex-wife, she had so much built up that she literally said, I'm not going to let you screw up our daughter's life like you screwed up mine. Listen, guys, I'm going to be 100% honest with you here. That brought me to tears, and that sucks, and it did suck. Something I had to put in perspective is I have to realize what I did, my part in this. I put my ex-wife through hell. I did all that stuff without even thinking. I let the addiction take over, and I didn't care what was in my way. So she's not doing something to try and hurt me. She's doing something to try and protect our daughter in her mind. And it's because of the hurt that I caused her that she has those resentments and those grudges. And with time comes conversation, and it doesn't happen overnight. So I have to keep moving forward, keep my eye on the prize, and realize that is my fault. And I am not going to be able to fix that right now. And that's clear. It's very evident in the conversation. And that was a hard realization. And I think that situation is a main reason why I came up with this episode, or decided I wanted to do an episode on grudges and resentments. We have to deal with these things. I want that peace. I want to find that peace. I don't know how long it's going to take. That's the thing. But I'm sober. I'm not in my addiction. I'm not out there getting high. So I'm putting in the work it takes to get to that point, and I'm going to be ready for it when it becomes time. And I'm okay with that because, again, guys, I'm sober. I'm enjoying my life. I'm here to tell you, yeah, of course, I have things that happen. I was walking. I went for a long walk recently with my roommate, and I stubbed the living shit out of my toe. I'm telling you, it hurt. But if that's the worst part of my day, I'm going to be all right. So, obviously, the situation with my ex-wife was a bad situation too, and it hurt. But when you cause these things, who are you to blame? What are you gonna? What can I actually say to her other than what I did? And her feelings are real, and that's her truth, and I have to understand that, all that stuff. And I say that because no matter what's going on, one of the biggest things that people in recovery that comes up is the king baby syndrome. And king baby syndrome is, you think you're king, and when you don't get your way, you act like a baby. And I feel like one of my strengths is I'm able to see both sides and understand what my part in it is. And sometimes I may fall short, but I definitely consciously take the time to look at both sides as much as possible and be mindful. And it's not always easy, but I screwed up. And I can't let those screw ups define or dictate my future. And if I did, then I wouldn't be here sitting talking to you guys. I wouldn't be in recovery. I would easily go back because it's just that. It's easier. I don't just fear going back to drugs because of what it brings about and what I do within it. What scares me the most is how easy it is to go back to that. And for those of you that don't know me, I have a sleeve of ink on my right arm. I've thought about putting somewhere "stay sober" just for an eye. Now I will say I don't get cravings. And I know some people do, and I understand. I do. This time around, there's a mindset that I have, and that mindset is to never go back. I'm 39 years old, and I don't want it. I do not want it. I know I just said it's easy to go back, but the thing about that is the things that is easy to go back for me. There are triggers. One of my downfalls was women. Things that I put myself into a situation, or I let stress get to me. I let the anxiety of stuff get to me. I get a case of efforts, stuff like that. But today and moving forward, I want this, and if I want it, I'm gonna go for it. So I'm going for it. I'm doing this, and I want to share that with other people. That's one of the big reasons I started this podcast. Is I want to share. And this, listen, guys, this isn't. I'd be lying to you to say this is all for you. This is for me too. I'm in this for me as well, and putting this podcast out every week, it's helpful. I enjoy sitting here, even though I'm talking to a computer right now. I feel like I'm talking to some people out there, and for those of you that have been tuning in, I appreciate it. I had a couple of people message me, and that's it's pretty cool. I had somebody that I owned a business with that I haven't talked to in a while, a few years at least. And getting a message from this guy was big for me because him and another guy, we took a cross-country trip, Michigan to California. 2 weeks. We stopped along the way, a lot of places. Our ultimate destination was in Arizona for something related to the business we owned. But we went all the way to California. That road trip is something that it will never be taken from me, that experience. There's just certain things I still think about every once in a while on that trip. It was an amazing experience that I wouldn't trade for anything. And for different reasons, I lost touch with this person, popping up here and there. I remember him and his wife. They came to visit Michigan, and I was managing a hotel at the time, and I helped him get a room at the hotel. And we didn't really get a chance to talk, but I shortly after that actually ended up getting a year in county jail. Um, and the third person that was a part of that cross country trip is one of the people that I lost, and that person, um, his name was Brian, and I met this guy when I was in sixth grade. He was one of my best friends. We had something so absolutely ridiculous. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, car clubs were a thing. Him and I, only two people, we came up with a car club called Pretty Boy Car Club. It was, looking back, I laugh. Gibraltar Trade Center was a big place of just, I'll say, good deals, to be nice. And, we had places that would cut decals. So you give them the font, give them what you want said, how you want it, and they'd print up a decal. And true, we both put decals on our cars. Our confidence level, I don't know how, but it must have been through the roof. And I was an awkward kid. I'm 6'8". I was 190 soaking wet back in high school. And I say that actually now, thinking that I was 190, 200 pounds in my addiction. I my standing weight now is 270 to 275. So as much as I say, oh, I was an awkward kid, I was awkward in my addiction too. But nonetheless, since I said the other guy's name, the gentleman that contacted me, his name's Tony. Tony and Brian, that whole experience is something I'll always hold. So hearing from Tony was great. Brian is a whole nother avenue. He has a new wife that I actually was around him when he first met her. And I remember when he came home and told me about her the next day. He was so excited. At the time, him and I were supposed to be getting an apartment together, and they ended up getting a place together. Long story short, I love the guy, I always have, and he has resentments and grudges towards me to the point where he cut me out of his life. And good for him. I was horrible. I was on drugs. I was doing stupid things, making bad decisions. And that's where I have to figure out. I have to see that and understand that in order to even try to think about approaching it. And in some cases, be ready. There are some people that are not going to want to even hear what you have to say. But I say that to say this too. Something that I've learned, those grudges being a cinder block, and you tie that cinder block to your ankle and you jump in that water. At a certain point, you're going to go deep, 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 deep. Even if you cut that rope to release those grudges, aka cinder block, from your ankle, you're still going to drown because you're not going to make it to the top. And for me, I don't want to live that way. So resentments, grudges, I don't hold them. If I have a problem with somebody from like now forward, I go to them. I say something, I work it out, I figure it out. It's not something that I will have in my life. I like positivity. And I'm sure I should fall short somewhere. I'm not perfect. But I have a lot of things I have to deal with from my past that I caused. And so when there's people that have grudges and resentments, and I know it, I just have to identify them and figure out one by one how I'm going to approach them or how I'm going to try to figure them out. One thing I can tell you for sure, the hardest part is forgiving myself. God, I know you're listening. You know dang well I'm having the hardest time with that. So when things happen like the situation with my ex-wife, it hurts. And There's nothing I can do but ask my higher power, which I do, to guide my path. It's something I do every single day as I journal. And it's very powerful, especially when you mean it. And that's been really great. I've embraced that. I will always love my ex-wife. I am crazy about my daughter, but I know my role in the resentments and the grudges. At least I think I do. And at some point, God willing, they will be approached and dealt with however that person sees fit on their end, but also however I see fit on my end. So hopefully we figure out somewhere where our paths meet. And for my sake, for their sake, her sake, my ex-wife's sake, I hope that we can figure it out. I don't want her. Those grudges, those resentments, they can truthfully uh, cause issues. I mean, sometimes health issues even. It's a real thing. Like, it can be so liberating. And then you can rebuild relationships so authentic. And I'm still learning to set myself free. It's not very easy, and it takes time. But I want to do the work. I'm willing to do the work, and I am able to do the work because of God. And I'm going to continue. The reason I journal is because I like to do daily reflection. It helps me stay present. And I keep reminding myself how it's a continuous journey. Reminding myself that it's a continuous journey. It helps me because I want to see both sides. I want to see that there's two sides to every story. Some people say three, I get it. But it helps me navigate those challenges, right? It helps me see that my part is my part. And it's not all on them because to get back to the King Baby thing, just because I'm in recovery doesn't mean I get a gold star. No, I know everybody gets a gold star, the Gen Z or whatever the heck that crap is. Everybody gets a gold star. Well, no, not everybody gets a gold star. I'm not entitled to forgiveness. I have to earn said forgiveness. And that goes for myself as well. I mean, I'm not entitled to any forgiveness. I look at how much work I put into my addiction. It takes you 21 days to make a habit. It takes 3 times as many days to break that habit. So that's 63 days. So if I put 21% into my addiction, which is low, I put 100% into my addiction, it's going to take 300% to get out of that addiction and fully at peace from all that. Grudges and resentments can be little, they can be huge, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. Now, you also have to keep in mind there are grudges and resentments or relationships that can be non-beneficiary to your recovery. I say that to say some people are going to try to throw a lot at you, try to make you feel bad, and will never let things go, no matter what path you take, no matter how much you put effort in, it's just going to be people that are always going to throw it up in your face. And that's why one of the steps, you make amends where not to hurt yourself or others. And it it takes work. I have certain things in my life that I have to put up healthy boundaries. And those healthy boundaries are because I have to put my recovery first. And it's not always easy to do that either. I keeping certain people at arm's distance and putting healthy boundaries up, it doesn't come natural. But identifying what my triggers are, identifying where the problem lies, identifying my role or my part in things are all aspects to a good recovery if sought out with good intentions from the right place. I am a firm believer that you can say anything to a person if it comes from the right place. And I try to keep that in mind. I slip up and I talk before I think, whereas I like to think before I talk or think before I act. And I've said it before in other episodes. I do believe you're either a part of the solution or you're part of the problem. There's no in between. So that being said, if I'm being a part of the solution and somebody wants to be a part of the problem, that's where I may need to put up a healthy boundary, healthy barrier, keep somebody at arm's distance. I had a therapist recently telling me that he had to cut out his own sister. And after years of keeping her at arm's distance, family gatherings, obviously they see each other. After years, an understanding came about, and now they're back to being entirely fine. He said it took years. It took him consistently on the path of recovery. And now he's a therapist, so I'm sure that plays a role as well in actions speaking louder than words. But it can happen from somebody we don't see, but maybe a couple times a year, to somebody we see a lot more than that. Either way, don't let grudges and resentment dictate your recovery as far as you keeping it or the path that you're on. And remember that you're worth the work. There are people out there rooting for you. And there are going to be hard times on this path. I'm still dealing with some of mine, like I said. I'm not here as some guru of all recovery. I'm still in this. I'm still going to learn things, I'm sure. I'm thankful for those experiences, and it's making me who I am. I am not going to let somebody else dictate my path. I'm not going to let somebody else have their actions dictate my actions. Every action has a reaction. So, keeping that in mind, my actions in my addiction may not have a reaction until my recovery. My actions in recovery have reactions now or later in my recovery. And some of my actions Now in recovery, in regards to some of my actions in addiction, may not see reactions until further down in my recovery. Just in case I said that too fast or anything. Here and now, whatever actions I take in regards to my previous years while I was in addiction may not see results or reactions until my future years in recovery. And you have to be understanding of that. I understand that I did some things, definitely did things that I'm not proud of, definitely did things that I haven't been able to forgive myself for yet. Some things I have, and some things just still take work. And I'm not going to pile myself up all at once, but that's for a whole nother podcast. I am on a good path thanks to my higher power. I ask for his guidance. I ask for him to lead my path. I don't want to mess up the verse, but Proverbs 3:5-7. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not on my own understanding, but trust in him with all my will, or something along those lines. And trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not on thine own understanding, but on his understanding, and he will guide your path. I did not probably do that verbatim, I'm sure, of what it says in the Bible, but what I take from that verse that I truly do like and love is, if I trust in him, he's going to guide my path. And I do feel like he's guiding my path right now. There's something about my path that's different this time, and I firmly believe that it is my higher power. There's something I'm in tune with this time around that's just making every bit of difference, and I feel it. It's not that I have faith in it, because faith is believing in the unseen, but I believe in it, and I believe in it because those are things that I have seen. So I'm going to continue on the path I'm going. Like I said before, I'm still learning, but I'm thankful for recovery, and I'm thankful for the ups and the downs, because it's teaching me some humility. It's letting me feel what I did to help me get to a point of forgiving myself for the things I did. Something we got to remember: life in recovery, it's one heck of a journey, but you got to address those grudges and those resentments. It is a big step. It takes a lot of courage, but the lasting effect and the healing is just not going to get there. It is absolutely not going to get there without addressing them. If you're on your own journey of recovery, remember, every step is a victory. I want you guys to know I really appreciate you tuning into my podcast. Subscribe for more stories of resilience and insight on life of recovery with me, Recovery Red. Until next time, stay clean, America.